tonight. Let's all stand and say the pledge of allegiance in prayer. Commissioner Jackson would at least in prayer.
Let's pray, Mr. Chairman. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord God, we just thank you for this day. We thank you for many blessings of life. Thank you for the opportunity, God, to come and assemble tonight on behalf of this county. God, I pray for our nation. I pray for our troops. I pray for our leaders, God, that you'd just touch them, give them divine wisdom, leadership, and guidance. God, I pray for us tonight, God, that you'd just give us wisdom for every decision that is to be made on behalf of this county. Father, we look to you to meet the needs, God, of this board, our school system, our families, our religious organizations, and each and every business and farm, God. God, we give you the thanks and praise for what you've done and what you're going to do. In the name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
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 Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, appreciate everybody coming out tonight. The first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of November 5th at our regular meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve these minutes?
After review, I so move, Mr. Chairman.
Second, Mr. Chairman. All in favor? Thank you. The next item is Evelyn Kaplan and Jim Phillips. On zoning issues.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. We come in front of you tonight to talk about property across from our road on 212 Betty Lane and 164. My name's Jim Phillips. I live at 212 Betty Lane. My son-in-law Tony, my daughter Evelyn lives at 164 Betty Lane. Back in 2008, we was in front of you where Mr. Abe Padgett wanted his property rezoned where he could sell it to Morgan Concrete. Morgan Concrete didn't show up that night, so on your recommendation, Mr. Jakes, put it on the table to the next month. The next month we came in, you and I got under each other's skin. I apologize to you that night. I know you remember that because I still feel bad about what I said to you, right? But he rezoned it, he sold it to Morgan Concrete. I was told Morgan Concrete probably never used that property because they're waiting to get a deal with the state when you're riding the road. They didn't get it. But Mr. Padgett, twice a year, pelts that field and grows hay for his animals, right? And my kids and I, both houses get sick from the smell, from that litter, whatever he puts on it, all right?
This year he started growing soybeans, which early fall we had a bunch of kudzu bugs. Then he just pelted on Wednesday. And I went out there Wednesday night messing with my Christmas ornaments in my yard. And I rubbed my face. The very next morning, I woke up, my eye was swollen. I just returned from the doctor's in Athens this afternoon. I have a staph infection. I'm strong antibiotics now because then I gotta watch it. I gotta be back in 2 days because if it gets any worse, this could be serious. But every time they do pelt it, we all wind up with a respiratory infection and the runs.
Okay. Getting back to the zoning part, you tabled that for a month. The next month we come into the county commissioner's office for your meeting. You didn't have a zoning meeting like I thought you should have. You called Mr. Morgan up and talked to him. That's when you and I unfortunately had a little misunderstanding. And you rezoned it for commercial, for him to buy the property and put a plant there. Well, if that was rezoned, it's not zoned for Abe Padgett to keep on pelting that place, making it sick, and grow whatever he wants to there. He's got to go back to agriculture rezoning, all right? Like I said, we're asking you people right now for some help before we get sick. I asked my daughter not to bring this up. I'm going to bring it up. Was that 204? In fact, February 204,
5.
I had a 10-week granddaughter that lived with me. A Paget pelted that field. 5 days later, she died for respiratory infection. I'm sorry, but take over.
As a matter of fact,
We were all sick.
within a week's time, we all
We were all
consecutively wound up with bad fevers and the runs and
We were all at that funeral.
stuff.
Pretty sick. And we lost a baby 2 months and 9 days. We had her at the doctor's every 2-month checkup. She was fine. She was healthy. There was nothing wrong with her lungs, nothing. 9 days later, we woke up to her blue in the face, not breathing. Ty Cobb pronounced her dead. Several months later, we finally got the autopsy, which showed a bacterial infection in the lung. Now, we didn't have all the proper proof to bring to you guys that Paget's Field did it. Well, now we're starting to get our proof. That's why I went to the doctors to get my, be documented this time. Every time this field gets pelted, we wind up with infections, and so it's unsafe for us.
I don't want to lose another family member because of respiratory infections, right?
And I don't want to be dying. They done scared me today by saying this is staph, and that if it's too close to my eye and my brain, that in 2 days, if this antibiotic does not start to do something, I need to go back to Athens. And they're going to admit me into Athens Regional and put me on an IV to start, trying to kill the infection in my face.
We feel like if it was rezoned for Morgan concrete, then it should be either brought up for rezoning again, or he can keep on doing this, or he needs to stop it before we lose somebody else in our family, right? I stood here in this hall one day when it came up. My son-in-law was with me, neighbor was with me. I had 14 petitions from people down that road didn't want Morgan concrete to be zoned. You people ignored that. I call it the good old boys, right? The county and Morgan against us. So every time it came up and we all got sick, I would tell my families, my wife, my grandkids, we live in the country. We have to put up with country ways. But if we die, that's not the country ways, all right? I'm sure if you people cannot look into this and get it straightened out for us, I'm sure EPA can get into it for us. Please, we're asking you people, look into the zoning part, see what you can come up with for us, and do what you can do before we all get really sick. I mean, I have bad breathing problems straight away. I worked 34 years in a steel mill. Came down here came home from Michigan for asbestosis, all right? So I put a lot to my asbestosis. I can't breathe hardly any, but this time when he does this, it's really rough around there, right? I get away from there, I breathe pretty good. But we need our county leaders, our county fathers, to look into this matter and get back with us, not push it under the rug. Get back with us. I don't want to lose another family member.
Another note is that property is maybe 100 feet from our front doors.
Yeah, I like that.
And then when he does pelt it, we got it in our yard because the trucks go right up along the edge. It's in our roadway, it's in our yards. So it is coming into our yard. My kids know to wear a mask. We wear masks when we go out there, especially right now because the first week is always the worst. But of course the mask didn't do me any good.
I went up to North Georgia Milling Service building today, because directly in front of my daughter's house is 4 acres that they own. I asked her about it because Mr. Paget pelted that 4 acres along his 32 or 36 acres, wherever he's been pelted. He included that 4 acres this for the first time.
Yeah, so it made it
They
even
told
larger
me
this time.
that they sold that property to Garfield Cobb before he passed away, all right? That Mrs. Cobb owns that. I personally feel in my heart, since A. Paget didn't get along with that mailing company, that he might have put Garfield up to buy it for him. But this is the first time he pelted it right in front of her house. But like I said, guys, gentlemen, we ask for help. That's all we do is ask for help. And you people are the one who can give us the answers.
I'd like to ask for some consideration. The amount of dust that comes off these trucks is ridiculous. It's all over the windowsills, all over your porch. Residual dust all over everything. I think it'd be reasonable to ask that we get some sort of fair warning when they're getting ready to do this. I think that's very reasonable, because if our windows should happen to be open, that's inside the house.
But like I said, if it's still zoned for Morgan concrete, then he shouldn't be pelting it and growing stuff and cutting it down. This time like I said, he pelted it, and a lot of the pellets came over our yards,
Yep.
all right?
20 feet.
And then he grew soybeans. We got these little black bugs all over our house.
Kudzus, bugs
And
everywhere.
every time you come out of the house, you had them on your clothes. It was hitchhikers. You know, I know we live in the country. We moved up here because we wanted to live in the country. But Sam, please, if you guys can give us any help with this, we appreciate it.
Mr. Phillips, in response to your request, I think we can definitely direct our county manager, who is also our temporary planning and zoning director. We will have him look at every aspect of zoning. Another question I would add, something that you could help us to help you. Have you contacted either the EPD, Department of Agriculture,
I have
or
their phone.
spoken?
I went to the Department of Health just Thursday, but then I've been working every day since then. They gave me a phone number for me to try to find out my rights and the legal aspect of how close he should, because there are laws against how chicken houses are built and the fans are being directed and stuff. So I was advised to talk to them and find out that within my 100 feet from that field, if that is, like he said, I'm not trying to say Paget's doing it, his farming, that's how they do it, but they're not saying that might be illegal, but some of the ways of us being as close as we are may be in, may not be in what they call it within the law.
In the guidelines.
In the guidelines. Because chicken houses are supposed to be built so, even though it's not a chicken house, they're supposed to be built so far away from residents. The fans have to be directed in certain ways, and so he told me to talk to them, let them know how I live within 100 feet from his, the beginning of his property, and let him know about the pelting. Because when he does it, like when he did just my dad's, it would be 12 trucks. Now he's got another 4 or 5 acres, so there's about 20 trucks going.
Have you talked to Mr. Paget and asked if he could give y'all fair warning?
We have, and we live on a private road at that. He has access off 51. He don't use that. He uses our private easement. We've asked him about the fair warning. We've asked him not to use our, because when he
our property, he's crossing our property.
He's crossing our property, and then when he brings those trucks down, they're shaking. And that also causes the rubbish in that to come, I call it rubbish.
We're trying to keep it clean.
So the spreader trucks are coming down Betty Lane?
And going all across my property, our property.
His tractor, when he cuts the
There's
grass.
been no spreader trucks are spreading. They go about 15 to 20 feet in my yard, and you can see what they've thrown out of their truck into my yard.
Have you spoken with him about maybe offsetting, spreading them?
They can turn their spinner down so it don't throw so far.
Right. Have you made him aware that?
My father's done more than talking to Paget. I have a lot of hate and resentment for losing the child because of this stuff. So I try to let my dad speak, because I know he'll keep it on a more professional tone rather than a young lady getting verbally abusive with her, to him. Although I have went out there telling him this is private property, he looks at me and yeah, right. I got pictures of his vehicle where I've stopped him. I got a picture of my dad in the middle of the road talking to him. I got it on camera. My dad talking to him. I got a picture of his pickup truck where I just stopped him and asked him not to be using our private easement that he has access on 51. And as he's like, there ain't nothing you can do. Well, that is my property. I'm the resident I own 164 Betty Lane. And so I snapped a picture of his license plate. Saturday he went across the property again. I stepped out there with my camera because I wanted one within, you know, so many days of showing, hey, this just happened, you know, this weekend. As soon as he see me step out, he turned it around and went out 51. So he's well aware that we don't want him on the property, you know, and that we're having an issue with his, because he sees, they've also seen me taking pictures of the trucks, because that's how I get.
Spreader trucks that are workers of his that are cutting through the easement like that too, then he probably should get the word out that that's private easement.
My property and her property, before I gave her an acre of land.
They all conjoin from the
They're-
wood line all the way to the curve.
I posted in Franklin County Citizen that it's private property, all right? I allowed for a while, told Mr. Paget, you can use this to get there. I have also told him, not no more. You know, because one of his workers got real nasty with me. Because I didn't know who was up there, and I went up there. He told me now I was on private property, and if I don't want to get shot, I better get off of it, all right? I said, so then I told Mr. Paget, next time, do not use my property, get to your property. And before I close, I'd like to thank Mr. Morris for his phone call this morning and his effort to get into this business, because this all happened before he got on board. And I think he did a professional job this morning with his phone call to me and checking things out. I want to thank him for that.
When was this rezoned? It must have been before I.
08,
It's been,
08,
It looks like more recently.
It's been a few
something
years.
else.
probably, I think 08.
I think he's getting ready to rezone it again.
Because
It was just 2 weeks ago.
They had it surveyed again,
Yeah,
right?
There's more stakes
They
going
put
out.
more stakes out there. They re-surveyed it about a week ago. I think they're going to either sell it, back to Paget, or they're going to come back and try to do something, about rezoning, or I don't know. But in my personal opinion, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not no educated person, just high school and little professional training. If it's zoned for commercial, it's not agriculture anymore. And it should have been left that way. But like I said, I appreciate any help you guys can give us in this matter.
we appreciate y'all coming out tonight.
And thank you again, Mr. Morris, for your input this morning.
We certainly are sorry for your loss.
Well, I first told her I didn't want to bring that up from the first.
It does.
Is the contact information correct here that we can respond back to you via letter?
Okay, that's it.
Yes.
Yeah, Billy, once you've had a chance to investigate that, if you could just please draft a summary and provide to us for our review, and then we'll definitely send a formal response back in regard to their request.
Appreciate your help, and
Thank you.
may you all have a Merry Christmas
You too.
and a Happy New Year, right?
Thank you. All right, the next item is County Attorney Gepko and the spray field.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you know, Glencore, which is the ACCG company, administers Franklin County's defined contribution plans. The 401A plan that is partially funded by the county for new employees that were hired after March 2011, and the 457B plan, which is a voluntary plan for employees fully funded by the participating employee. Periodically, primarily due to changes in federal law that are related to the plans, revisions have to be made to the plan documents to ensure their continued legality. I've reviewed the affected plan documents in the context of these laws that require their amendment. I found no substantial substantive changes to the terms or the operation of the plans. Upon plan revision, Gepco will submit our 401A plan to the IRS for a determination by the IRS and a ruling that our plan complies in all facets with federal law. Gepco requests your consideration of the two resolutions previously circulated authorizing the plan revisions, and at this time, therefore, it would be appropriate to have a motion to authorize the chairman to execute the resolutions.
Do I hear a motion to approve this?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to authorize you to endorse these resolutions. So after review of the document and based on recommendation from council, I will second.
All in favor? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next item is consideration of an amendment to the lease arrangement between Franklin County and the existing leases with an entity called Sheriff Selling Interest. It's now TA Operating LLC for the property that the county uses for its wastewater spray field operation. The term of the existing lease actually expired several years ago and has continued on a month-to-month basis since then. The main function of the proposed amendment is to renew the agreement for a new 5-year term through 2017. Thereafter, the agreement contemplates a mutually agreed upon additional 5-year extension. At this time, Mr. Chairman, it would be appropriate for there to be a motion to authorize the chairman to execute the amendment to the lease.
Mr. Chairman, prior to any motion being made, it is not noted on our agenda. And I'm asking if it is appropriate to take action based on your request, considering I at least do not have it on my agenda.
I think that it got added to the agenda after your agenda was circulated to the members. I think in that the order has been raised, it would certainly be appropriate to, before any motion is made, if the board is inclined to amend the agenda to add the item. Otherwise, we can take it up at a subsequent meeting.
I would apologize. Could I get you to repeat again? I was too busy trying to look for documentation related to that issue.
Sure. We can either make a motion to amend the agenda tonight to add the item and then take action, or we can certainly defer action and take it at a subsequent meeting.
Can you cover the action that you're requesting, please, again?
I think we're fine if that is the latest agenda. We just did not
understand. I did not fully hear your recommendation, and I apologize, but
no problem. The purpose of the amendment is to extend the term. The term of the original lease expired some time ago. We've been operating under a month-to-month arrangement. Okay. It's certainly beneficial to the county to have a term of the agreement. The term would be for 5 years through 2017. There's an additional language in there that the parties contemplate a mutual agreement for an additional 5-year extension after that time period. The one provision that they have added that was peculiar and required some discussion among the parties was they wanted the option at their expense to relocate the spray field to adjacent property owned by them, and we insisted that that provision include that it be coordinated with us and EPD and any applicable regulatory agency and be done pursuant to an appropriate permit provision and with regard to our existing permit for the operation.
Mr. Chairman, just to make it straight, I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda to add item 5B, discussion on spray field lease.
Okay, now I'll second that. All in favor? Okay. Do you want to go ahead and make a motion to approve this?
And you feel comfortable with the agreement?
Yes, sir. I assisted in drafting.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we accept the agreement.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
All in favor? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother. The next item is our county manager report.
Yes, sir. I have several things, and I'll start with the animal shelter operation. Item A, the Animal Shelter Board would like to give Franklin County an extension on the animal drop-off date as a show of support and good faith. This will give us more time to consider funding options that the county might have to fully fund the program. And I think this is being done because Franklin County has been making some sincere efforts to find ways to fund the shelter. So I just wanted to report that to you.
And Billy, could you clarify that will be extending, and Ms. Pam Stone with our shelter, to December 31st of 2012? And we are very appreciative for you working with us. And I know when our discussions initially started, our concern was with the tight budget that we had this year. with our lost collections as well as the property tax digest. We're hoping that on the 27th, when we have our all-day planning meeting, we will have adequate data to where we can make a full determination about revenue and expenditures. But again, we certainly appreciate you working with the county and the citizens toward resolution on this issue.
We appreciate you working with us too.
Okay, great. Item B, water well agreements. At a recent work session, we discussed whether Franklin County should entertain the possibility of adding additional wells to our water system. The Board of Commissioners' consensus was that we needed to be proactive in pursuing additional water suppliers. As you know, we currently have 3 wells on our system. Today we have 2 individuals in the Bold Springs area that are offering wells to us, Jarrett Hall and John David Bookout. They have prepared lease agreements for your consideration. Those lease agreements are based on previous agreements, water well agreements that the county has already approved. But the terms of that agreement are as follows. The owner will lease the county a 20-foot by 20-foot lot with an easement from the road, and will drill the well with steel casing at their expense and will meet all EPD regulations at their expense. The county will have a 10-year exclusive option to purchase water at 75 cents per 1,000 gallons. After 10 years, the owner will have the option to increase the purchase rate based on any rate increases the county imposes on its own customers. The county will provide the owner with 4 million gallons of finished water per year at no cost. The owner will hire a private well contractor to pump test the well, and it must yield 100 gallons per minute. That's a minimum. The county would be responsible for securing the EPD permits and is responsible for all treatment facilities that are necessary to produce finished water. The agreement, it has a 30-year term with another 30-year term extension upon mutual agreement. And we've asked for your consideration of these 2 leases at this time.
Just one question, I'm sorry. One question, Billy. On the escalator clause, is that based on a percentage rate increase? Not, in other words, we go up 50 cents a 1,000, that's not going to increase this rate 50 cents a 1,000, correct?
Let me look at that real quick.
I guess what I'm asking, it should be tied to any percentage increase rather than an actual dollar rate increase.
Percentage rate increase.
Yes, we can certainly make it that.
Okay.
Does it say that, Bob? It does, good. Okay,
Percentage rate.
so we're in good shape there.
Okay.
Billy, the question that I have either of these individuals done any exploratory work thus far?
I think they've done some exploratory work, but not to the extent that we can determine whether these are viable wells or not.
Okay. Given the location of these wells, is this going to put a water supply in a part of the system that is going to be viable both for the county and the property owner? Because you're talking about a significant capital outlay by the property owner. And I think there needs to be I guess what you would say, a need in that component of the system. So if they do indeed have a viable well and we hook on, then they will have some semblance of an idea that our system can handle removal of the water and placement into the system.
Yes, we have come to that conclusion. Certainly our county engineer has taken the lead on that and determined that those are good locations, especially when you consider the expansion that we're doing in that area as we speak. We're getting ready to bid out some water lines in that area. So yes, to answer your question, the answer is yes.
Well, this is excellent. This basically allows us to have a very high quality of water at virtually half the price that we're paying from our other vendor. So it is a win-win situation.
Okay, do I hear a motion to approve these contracts?
I so move, Mr. Chairman.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
All in favor? All right, thank you.
Okay, the next item concerns water meter replacement program, and as you will remember, we have GFA funds to cover the costs associated with water meter replacement program. We recently opened bids for this project. The bids as read at the bid opening were as follows. Dodd Construction of Livonia, $382,050. Stratton and Sons of Cannon, $433,078, and then Thielsch Engineering of Cranston, Rhode Island, $441,923.80. Upon further review of the bids, it was determined that Thielsch Engineering bid was non-responsive. They did not list and apparently do not have a Georgia utility contractor's license as required on the bid form, and additionally, it was discovered they made a substantial math error on their bid calculation on the bid form. So at this time, we are recommending that you award the contract to Dodd Construction in the amount of $382,050 as the lowest responsive bidder.
I'd make that motion that we do award this bid to Dodd Construction.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
All in favor? All right, thank you.
Okay, the next item of road resurfacing bids. The Department of Transportation approved funding for Franklin County to resurface 4 roads. Those roads are South Fairview Road, Unawati Road, Beaver Dam Farm Road, and Broad River Church Road. We recently opened 6 bids on this project, the low bidder being E.R. Snell with a bid of $349,840.03. The DOT funding will be enough to cover 94% of the cost, with the balance coming from our SPLOST funds. So at this time, I would request your approval or consideration of E.R. Snell to perform this work.
Billy, I have no problem with the bid, but I do, just for the record, I want to state in the past we have run into problems with safety as far as traffic control, and I know that they were the lowest as far as traffic control on this bid, and I just want to make sure that that safety on our roads is a priority.
Yes,
and
sir.
we need some kind of recourse if we run into the problem that we have run into in the past. So that would
We'll make a point to make sure they understand that. We're working with DOT on this project as well. We'll ask for their assistance as well. So we'll do everything we can to accomplish that goal.
Yeah, just emphasize that heavily at the pre-co.
Yes, sir. And on that, I would go ahead and make a motion that we do accept their bid.
I will second that motion based on review.
All right, all in favor? All right, thank you.
Okay, the next item of business is what I'm calling the DOT set-aside funds. The Georgia Department of Transportation has funds available for special projects that fall under one of the following categories: emergency projects, school projects, and economic development projects. A couple of school projects that often come up include turn lanes at the middle school, meaning at Turkey Creek Road, and at the high school on Highway 145 to improve safety at those locations. My question to you is, do we want to pursue DOT funding for these projects? We may only be able to fund one of the projects at a time. I have had recent conversations with the school superintendent, and she has identified the high school project as a top priority. Either project would be good. The funding, the DOT funding works like an LBIG funding. DOT will provide 70% of the funding, and Franklin County will be responsible for 30% of the funding. And at this point, we would like you to, if you so agree, to turn the staff loose to pursue funding for whichever project you think is a top priority.
Really, based on my review, and I would be in concurrence with our school superintendent that the 145 at Franklin County High School would be the top priority due to the volume and also due to the operational improvement that this project would add. I think our sheriff, who is sitting in the back, might add or might have input towards this also.
Both of them are very important. My concern with high school is you're going to have a problem anyway, because if most of your problems come from corner, you've got to cross traffic. And if you put a turning lane on north, coming towards Carnival, you can go into the same property back down there. So, I understand both of them are very important, but I agree you need to do one at a time and see what money you got left. Matter of fact, one of my new vehicles got totaled. And it wasn't even school time when somebody turned in front of me. There's an issue in both places.
Now, Billy, just for clarification, we would be extending the left turn lane on 145 coming from Carnesville to the school, and we also should look at putting a right turn decel lane off of 145 turning into the school coming from Royston if we have adequate right-of-way.
That certainly is Project A that we would like to go for, and I think that's very doable. But a Project B has sort of come up. In talking to the school superintendent this morning, and Terry Gable, who you know well with DOT, is going to pay us a visit in Franklin County this week, later this week. We're looking at the possibility of making a new intersection for the school entrance across from Hubbard Road. And given that intersection, so you've got a complete intersection there with Hubbard that may, at one later date, be a good place for a traffic light. But certainly not now. That's not part of Project B. So that's what we're looking at, the possibility of doing something like that.
But if we do, if in the future we do Project B, if we went ahead and done the turn lanes, would that be a waste of money after,
Well, I think we would do A or B.
A or B.
That's right. We can do both. We're going to see what the funding presents. If funding is there to do B, we'll ask y'all's permission to do that, and we'll move forward with it. If not, I think we definitely can do what Commissioner Jakes was talking about.
Well, if you realign the entrance to the high school, you're going to be losing your current left turn lane capacity coming off 145 from Carnesville. And you'll have to reinstall your current capacity plus additional.
That's correct.
I know the alignment with Hubbard would be positive, but your cost is going to increase exponentially because you're having to go back and widen for your left turn lane for the whole new distance rather than expanding the existing turn lane.
That is absolutely correct.
So let's just keep that in mind as we're looking for the best possible alternative.
Good. We will do that.
Do I hear a motion that we go ahead and let them seek these funds?
I will make the motion because we're looking at basically 70+% of money in addition to the current funding that we are receiving. I think this is a wise usage of our SPLOST funds, but I would defer to my colleagues for comments or concerns.
When we seek the funding, are we going to have to know at that time which project are we going to do?
I think we will. I think we'll have to.
See, I think that deserves more discussion.
And that's fine. We're willing to bring it back to you.
I think we need to, because I've talked to law enforcement and I tend to agree how much will it help, which is the most dire project, the one at the middle school or the one at the high school, but also which one will get the best results. And I tend to agree that putting a turn lane there at the high school may have just limited results as far as safety is concerned. And
Okay, could you clarify that for me?
If you're putting a turn lane, you're still going to have, according to our sheriff, you're still going to have a problem with traffic in the fact there's still, and the way I see it, it could actually be a worse scenario because if you have a turn lane, you're going to have people that's shooting by, not slowing down. You're going to have traffic that's going faster than if traffic is stopped.
Well, putting a left turn lane in, you're taking vehicles out of the existing through lane, putting them into a protected left, and you're also adding a turn lane on 145 coming back toward Carnesville, getting your vehicles off, transitioning off of 145, then having them merge. But we can look at all the options. And we can consult our school system and sheriff's department. And
I think we need to decide before we seek funding.
I know the funding is limited, so maybe on the 27th, we could have some data at our all-day planning session.
Yes,
And maybe
yes.
at that point, or at our first meeting in January,
Right.
be ready to move forward before
I totally
funding
agree.
is gone.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, the next item is the October financial report. This is the report for the period ending October 31st and 1/3 of the fiscal year. Start by looking at the travel and training report for the commission. As you can see, only 1% of the travel budget has been expended. 62% of the training budget has been expended, but that is due in large part to the required training for our newly elected officials. Moving on to our outstanding debt, a small reduction was made since our last report on the outstanding debt. We made a monthly payment on one of the GFA loans, the monthly GFA loan, and leaving a current debt balance of $5.2 million. Looking next at our cash balance had increased by $300,000 over the last month. The biggest area of increase was seen in the general fund cash. Moving on to general fund revenues. As seen in our cash balance, our general fund revenues jumped considerably over the last month and stands at 32%. Down through our general fund expenses. Our general fund expenses are slightly over budget at 37%, but certainly still in a comfortable position for this time of the year. The 911 fund, both expenses and revenues for E911 fund are exactly on target and where they should be at this point of the year at 33%. The water fund continues to perform very well and to the point where it is able to cover its own debt without a transfer. Revenues are at 32% and expenses at 29%. User fees for the solid waste fund are at 22%. This is down a little bit, but it's because we accumulate recyclables to the point where we get a truckload and then sell them, so it's not, we don't do that every month. So that'll catch back up. I feel comfortable. The other user fees look good, and the expenses look good also at 26%. So overall, the budget, the numbers look okay and not too far from where we'd expect them to be at this point in the fiscal year. Revenues are at 31% and expenses are at 36%. Unless there are no questions, I'll move on to the next item. The local emergency operations plan update. Every 4 years, the county is required by GEMA to review and update the local emergency operations plan. The plan is necessary to be eligible for state and federal reimbursement for resources expended on emergency preparedness and response. Our plan was adopted by the Commission in 2008, and the only changes being made to the plan at this time reflect contact information that has occurred over time due to personnel changes and turnover. Jones Beasley is here tonight, our E911 and EMA director, if you have any questions, but otherwise we would ask for your approval at this time.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion we approve this update to our emergency operations plan.
Okay, so here's second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Thank you.
Okay, with the planning work session just a few weeks away, I thought we needed to start working on the agenda for that meeting. So in the days to come, I would ask each of you, the commissioners, to advise me or the county clerk of any agenda items you want to discuss. And with this idea in mind, I felt it was a good time to remind you of some of the issues recently identified by the grand jury. I'll read through their list of recommendations. Some of them do not directly affect the Board of Commissioners, but other items you may wish to discuss at your planning meeting on December 27th. The recent grand jury recommended recommend that brief agenda be given to each member of the grand jury, as well as a proper turnover from session to session to ensure the grand jury members are aware of the status of prior recommendations. Number 2, recommend a meeting be held between the jail administrators and the Board of County Commissioners regarding needed jail expansion. Recommend Sheriff's Department request to add 2 part-time deputies as well as 1 full-time investigator to meet the needs of the county. 4, recommend that a request for proposal, an RFP, to change auditors for the county be open for bid every 3 to 5 years. The current term of 15 years warrant a recommended change. 5, strongly recommend that the school superintendent be an elected position. 6, strongly recommend 2 Board of Education members are available for grand jury questioning and present the following information. Current working budget that is itemized and complete with expenditures including salaries, costs per student, number of employees, and present how many family members are employees within each school system. Number 7, strongly recommend that the County Board of Commissioners chairperson and 1 board member be available to answer questions and follow up for previous grand jury sessions as needed. And finally, number 8, recommend that members of the jury be paid $35 per day, grand jury members be paid $50 per day, and the bailiff $65 per day. And with that, just a reminder that we do have our planning work session on December 27th, starting at 8:30 a.m. at the Royston Library, and that is a Thursday. And with that concludes my reports.
Any questions?
No, sir. Thank you, Bill.
The next item is public comment. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is to Billy. Billy, what's the status on the striping up to date? Give us a little agenda on that. And also, are there any plans being made for the 3 commissioners that's outgoing and the 3 commissioners going? I appreciate that, sir.
Yes, sir. The striping, you're talking about striping plan?
Yes, sir.
Yes, we are working on that. We have submitted a list to DOT. We're awaiting their consideration and funding. We believe that we will get substantial funding for that program and that work will happen, spring of next year, that sort of thing. And then, yes, we would like to do something for the outgoing commissioners. We have a tentative date of December 12th to have a community reception at Rocky Ford Park where members of the community could come in and wish them well, that sort of thing. So
what time is that?
I think roughly 2 to 4. We'll get an announcement out.
Okay. This is for the new commissioners as well as the old ones to get together?
Well, the basic purpose of this one is to for the outgoing commissioners.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
2 to 4.
2 to 4, December 12th, Rocky Ford Park.
Any other? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, thank you, sir. I have a deep and compassionate love of animals, and we have, as you know, in this county, a lot of abandoned and neglected animals, number 1. And number 2, the fact there are no leash laws, they're a hazard. So I want to encourage you to really support the Northeast Georgia Animal Shelter. I know you will. They do a fine job there. And just 2 quick questions. 1, have you ever or do you plan to consider animal control? And the second question is, why are there no leash laws? Because I walk, and where I walk, there are pit bulls, and it's just very, very frustrating that there are no leash laws.
What's your name? So you have.
I'm sorry, I'm Nancy Chadwick. Nancy Chadwick.
I remember you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I guess it'd be up to this, the new board coming on about the lease loans and animal control, so.
Both items will be a topic of discussion on December the 27th at our all-day planning session where we transition from our current board to our incoming board.
So that might be part of your discussion?
Yes, ma'am, that will be
It
part.
will be.
Thank you. Good. Good.
Where's that meeting, Jeff?
It will be at the Royston Library, if I'm not
Yeah, like
mistaken,
before.
in the small conference room as soon as you walk in on the
Starting
left.
at 8:30.
Is that open to the public?
Yes, absolutely.
That is
Yeah.
open. Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Thanks. Okay.
Starts at 8:30
Yes, sir.
a.m. or p.m.?
AM, we hope.
Any other, yes, sir.
I want to thank Nancy for bringing that up, because that's why I came back for this meeting here, so thank you very much for bringing that up.
You're welcome. We'll go to the meeting.
There you go.
Thank you. Any other? No other public comment? If no other, do we hear a motion?
Move to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All in favor then? And appreciate everybody coming out tonight. Thank you.